Well, hello and welcome to the second lesson in starting Python. To briefly explain what I hope to achieve in this series, to teach programming with Python. For someone who doesn't know how to program, to teach you how to program, and we're going to do this via the Python programming language and using the Python 3.7 virtual machine or script engine, whatever you want to call it. So, if you followed the last video, you installed Python on your Windows machine. In this lesson, we're going to start by pressing the Window key, typing in idle, and we have this nice terminal window. And we're not going to do much more than talk about why do we write software. Essentially, writing software is we're going to take some sort of input. That input could be predetermined. That input could be supplied by a user, could come from files on your computer, let's say a picture. A perfect example of a very useful program would be one that can look inside of your photo album and take each of those pictures and alter it in some way, and then save those altered pictures to the same location, overriding the originals, hopefully not, or to a new location. Maybe it's going to scan those images and see if they are similar to an image that you already have backed up somewhere, say in Google Cloud Storage or Amazon Web Services. And that's the entirety of a program. You take data, you process data, and you output data. Not all of the data has to be the same on the input and the output. The output could just be to the monitor. Such as video games, we output to the monitor and we output to the headphones or the stereo, to speakers. The output might be to a printer. So there are a lot of things that we do with programming, but they all revolve around taking data, processing data, and outputting data. Right now what we're going to focus on is the processing part. And to do this, we're going to hard code our data into the application. In future videos or future lessons, we will actually look at reading data from files, and we'll also ask users for input. Asking users for input in a Python program normally isn't that useful, mainly because not a lot of people are going to be using your Python application from a command line. Now, there are exceptions to this, but they usually come in the form of server software. There is lots of software that helps websites run that does have what we call a CLI, or a command line interface. And those applications do ask for input sometimes, but more often than not, you're going to find that a Python program is going to read data from a file. So we'll cover that first, actually. It's not a typical route to take, but I think it's a more useful. So let's start with numbers and arithmetic. So we have this shell open, and we can just at will sort of execute Python code. If I want to add two numbers together, let's say we want to add 10 and 5. Well, the way to do this is more or less how we would write it in English or in normal algebraic notation, and that is 10 plus 5. If we press enter, it's going to spit out 15. Perfect. So this video doesn't take too long. We're just going to start going a little quicker now. Multiplication is the same thing. If we take 10 and we multiply, which is the star, by 5, we should expect to get 50. And we got 50. Now, something a little strange is going to happen here, because we're going to go to division. And with division, it's going to add some stuff to our number that we haven't seen yet. And so if I say 10 divided by 5, we should get 2, right? Well, this time, instead of it giving us just 2, it gave us a 2.0. A perfectly good explanation for this, and we'll talk about it later. Let's move on to subtraction. As you would expect, 10 minus 5 is 5. Now, what if we want to do more complicated things? What if we want to say 10 minus 5 times 2? Those of you who are mathematically inclined would expect 10 minus 5 times 2 to be 0. And it is. But what if we want to subtract 5 from 10 and then multiply that by 2? Well, we have parentheses to help us, just like we do in normal math. So we have order of operations. There we go, 10. We'll even get a nice error, or we should, if we try to say 10 divided by 0 and a lot of red. A lot of red normally means bad. So let's start reading this. Traceback. Traceback basically means it's going to recall what led to this error. This can say in line 1, we're entering things one line at a time, so that's valid. Then it gives us the actual code right there. 10 divided by 0 and giving us a zero division error. So everyone who does math knows that you can't really divide by zero. It produces some unexpected results. So in computer science, we just say you're not allowed to do it. Some languages, they'll actually spit out zero, and it sometimes causes to some funky stuff when it comes to math. So let's continue then. It even handles negative numbers like you would expect. If you say -2 plus -2, we have -4. -2 times -2, and we have 4. Negative times a negative is a positive. -2 times 2, -4. Okay, so it handles math as we expect it to. Later, we'll talk about that funky thing that happened with the division. But for now, let's talk about a math operator that most people don't know about. And it's not, to my knowledge, I never use this outside of computer science, and it's called the modulus or the modulo. A lot of times you'll just hear it called mod, but it's the percent sign in Python, and what it is going to do is just like division. If you divide numbers that do not divide nicely or evenly, you have a remainder. In normal long division, you would calculate out the decimal, but if you're doing short division, you would take the remainder and you would say like, oh, it goes into it 2 times with a remainder of 2. Well, to do that, we can say 3 divided by 2 is going to give us a decimal 1.5, right? Well, what if we want to get the remainder instead? Well, we can say 3 mod 2, and we had a remainder of 1. Let's use another example. So let's say 7 divided by 3 is going to be this 2.33333, right? But 7 mod 3 is going to hopefully be 1. There we go. It's also 1 because 3 goes into 7 2 times, giving us 6 with a remainder of 1. And now there is one more thing to do with arithmetic inside Python that is also not common outside of computer science, and this is a integer division. We'll get into what an integer is and float in the next video, I think. But right now, let's say you want to divide 7 by 3, and you want the 2, but you don't want that dot 333, whatever it is. So you want to just cut that off. Well, integer division does exactly that. We can say 7 and then //3, and that's going to give us our 2. This is integer division. In combination with integer division and the modulus or modulo, you can get the number and the remainder. Thank you for watching this video. This one was a little bit longer, and unfortunately I had a sneeze attack in the middle, so I have to do some editing. In the next video, we are going to talk a little bit more about using math, but we will also start talking about some other stuff. This is all just numbers, so let's start talking about how we can use numbers to do stuff. We'll also get into what we would consider textual data or strings. This is anything that is not a number, basically. We're gonna represent as a string for a long time. Then we'll get into types, and types are quite difficult to understand at first, but I promise once you understand them, they're easy, and they really help. Thank you again. This was Arithmetic, Lesson 2. Please join me for the third lesson, where we will start doing more real stuff. Thanks.